So I'm Wynton Brown from Telluride High School.
And I'm Gould from Uray High School.
So like she said, we did neuroscience and addiction in La Jolla, California, which is in San Diego. This Google map kind of shows the big red arrow is where we were. These were the two buildings we worked at, and it was a really cool place to work. Like you can see in that picture down there, that it was right near the beach, near Torrey Pines Golf Course for the golfers, and it was a beautiful place.
We worked in Olivier George's addiction lab, and these are a few of our mentors and the spaces that we were working in. On the picture on the right are self-administration boxes where rats can press a lever and be administered a drug, whether that be alcohol, cocaine, or oxycodone. How these self-administration boxes work is it is the rat's choice to be taking the drug. They're not being forced to become addicted. And they are put in these boxes for stretches of about an hour, sometimes less. And they'll have an option to press a lever for water or press the lever for the drug. Or in the case of most of the animals that we worked with, they would press for alcohol. The George Lab is one of the biggest labs in San Diego or California, and sort of globally, like there's not a lab that can get that many animals dependent on a substance at one time as the George Lab. So instead of just throwing away the bodies of the dead rats when they're finished with the experiments, they're carefully frozen and provided for free. Even though it takes a ton of labor to make it free, it's just the goodness of the lab's heart, basically, and they provide these organs to labs all over the world.
So what we're doing here is cryostat slicing. So what that is you take the brains, the rat brains, and after they're frozen, you have to slice them into tiny 40 micron, which is 40 millionth of a meter thick slices, so that you can look at them through a microscope. And so we got to do that, which was actually cool. We didn't really think we'd be doing anything that was quite that important. So that's what we're doing in this pictures.
These are intravenous catheters that we had to help make. They are how the rat is administered a substance if it is not alcohol. It is put directly into their jugular vein through the catheter that is installed into their back via surgery. So we would make like 5 of these at a time, throw away 4 of them because they weren't good enough, and then eventually would end up in a rat's back.
Okay, so what we also got to do was sit in on some lab meetings, which was really cool because you kind of got to see like the inner workings of a lab. We didn't contribute much, but it was just kind of cool to see how the logistics worked and like how everything was delegated.
One of the things this summer that helped me learn the most was a scientific journal research and study club with our mentor, Marcita. And she would basically just give us a topic or maybe a review or maybe the summary of a paper. And we would have to read it and then create a presentation for it and give it to her and the other interns. And then she would just tear it apart and tell us everything we got wrong. And then these are 2 interns, Kevin and Nikki, who we worked with this summer.
Okay, so we also did some behavioral testing, which is used to like prove that the rats are addicted to whatever substance. So in that one picture where I'm holding the mouse, what we're doing is you put the mouse's tail in hot water, and when you measure how long it takes for them to flick up their tail. And this is a sign of like how much pain they're in. And when they're going through withdrawal, they'll be in more pain, so they'll flick up their tail faster. And then this red picture is like this irritability test with like this brush. So you put the rats in a cage, and you put a brush in there and start whacking them with it. And you have to kind of score how the rat responds. Like if they start punching the brush, it's an aggressive response. If they try to run away or dig into the bedding, it's a passive response. And then this one on the bottom right is the Von Frey testing, which it also measures the rat's pain. So what you do is they're in cages where the bottom is wire mesh, and then you come with and poke them in the feet and with different forces, and when they respond they'll respond to lesser forces when they're going through withdrawal. And then with this, I also did some data analysis and entry with Excel. Yeah.
We stayed with a woman named Claire Reese in La Jolla, California. She opened us up to a lot of different ways of looking at the world that we weren't used to. One, because of her background being raised in China, communist China, and two, because she's extremely Catholic now. And it was very generous of her to welcome us into her home. And from the moment we stepped into her home, we were kind of overwhelmed with things like these ivory sculptures and these crazy paintings of just like the presence that we were in, I guess.
So one of our favorite parts was the food. Of course, science is great, but you love eating. So here we got that. That was filet mignon. That was a really good chocolate cake I had. And down on the end were some pork chops. This Claire was generous enough to take us to the country club for food sometimes, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of the best parts of the internship. Being in San Diego, we had to take advantage. Of course, go to the zoo. I got this alligator, polar bear. The San Diego Zoo. It's amazing. We were also, Claire lives a 5-minute walk from the beach, so we made use of that. We tried and failed surfing, watched some sunsets, swam in the ocean. It was a whole lot of fun.
Thank you to everyone from our lab and everyone else so much for this amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Awesome. Give them a clicker.